So valuations become important. Valuation is what people pay you for buying your stock. Value creation is what you do to create a sustainable business. And throughout history, valuation and value creation has moved in cycles. When there is greed, valuation goes up. We believe growth is going to be a one-way street all the way up, like inflation in the United States. But when greed becomes too large, and like Rockefeller said, even the shoe shine person opposite Wall Street was talking about stocks, fear comes in. And then people start selling and valuation disappears. So we go through these cycles. And these cycles are part of the capitalistic economy of creative destruction. It's like the Tandava dance of Shiva. Creation, sustenance, destruction. So, greed and fear rule the markets. Human emotions rule the markets. And it's happened throughout. When the going is good, raise capital, keep the money in the bank, look at it every single day, worship it, because the market comes down, you'll have cash to spend. You know, Arnab, I remember in 2000, Infosys was valued at 55 times sale, 200 times EPS, 50,000 crores for a revenue of about maybe 400 crores, as whatever it is, small. And the next 4 years, we increased our EPS by 43% a year. Market value came down from 50,000 crores, 35,000 crores. So all these declines in the market for Paytm and all, we've seen it much bigger, much before. If somebody says my valuation is 30 times sales, you just laugh at them and say, okay, it happens. So there is this cycle that goes on, and I think we got to be very cognizant about that and build sustainable businesses. So I want to say it is part of the capitalist economy, and we got to keep quiet. Now, how do you build a sustainable business? You build a sustainable business by creating products or services which people want, are payable to pay you a price, and people need. And this has to continue by relentless execution day in and day out. Entrepreneurship is a 24/7 hour job for everybody. There's no work-life balance in entrepreneurship. It's just work, because life is your work, like you do, Arnab. Every day, every single minute, like Suhail does, like the great man Sanjeev does. Every single minute is work. And work is life. It involves a lot of sacrifice. It involves creating value in future by sacrificing today. And you enjoy the benefits for a period of time, and it takes time. Anything that goes up fast comes down fast too. When the Nasdaq boom happened, Infosys valuation went up by $25 billion in 2 weeks and came down by $15 billion in 1 week. We never knew why it went up. We never knew why it came down. It was nice going up. While coming down, well, you felt a little bit surprised. So that is the second one. So build a sustainable business. Next thing is, raise capital when money is available. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. When people are going and giving you money, raise the money. Get whatever valuation you want. But remember one thing, equity is very expensive. Equity holders want 20-25%. Banks only want 8-9%, right? They're very cheap. Except if you buy an apartment and go away somewhere to London or somewhere. So it's very difficult. But it's expensive, and investors want return on what you buy. If you are valued at 10 billion and raise $1 billion capital, they want 25% compound in the next few years. That's their expectation. And if you don't fulfill the expectation, the market will punish you. So you've got to be careful about how you value. And if you value, you must value at a point when the investors who come in see great value. If you're going for an IPO, we tell people value at a lower point than what you're willing to pay. You know, Arnab, in 1999, when we did the Infosys listing on the Nasdaq, we had a book of $3.6 billion for $72 million of capital. We didn't need the money. The money is still in the bank. We never used the money. Listing was for strategic reasons. And the book was around $37. And we fought with the big banks like Goldman Sachs to say, we don't want 37, give us 34. They were shocked. Nobody has argued with us to say that we don't want the best price. We said, look, we are diluting 3% of the stock. We want the investors to come in to make money. We want them to make money because we don't want to destroy the 97% for the sake of the 3%. If you price it high and the market falls, 97% are going to lose. If you're diluting 10%, you've got to take care of the 90%, not squeeze the 10%. You take more money from the 10%, the 90% will lose. All these guys who have gone to the market, very proud boys who think they're the cash whiskers, they've seen the stock price fall down 60, 70%. They destroy the value of the existing investors for the small amount of greed and to be heroes on a particular day to go price going up. So price is something that you've got to be very careful, because the price has to be sustainable. And when you take money from the public, you have a fiduciary agent. You work for everybody, not for yourself. You have to work for the small investor, every single person, because you have taken their public money. I was in a FICCI event where a lot of industrialists are there. And as a SEBI committee member, we brought in majority of the minority for voting for related party transaction. Everybody came on stage and said, I own 60% of the company. Who is this person to tell me majority of the minority? Then the chairman told me to meet, to come and talk. And I said, look, if you take 1 paisa from the public, you are a fiduciary agent and they have a right, not you. You are not the owner of your company. You are a fiduciary agent and take care of them. So when you take money from investors, you must make sure they raise money. And I think that's extremely important. And then make sure that you have respect for capital. Somebody has given you money to invest, not to blow it up, to buy cars, or to go for a holiday and give bikes to all kind of people, because money is not going to be endless. Have respect for capital. Be frugal in the use of capital, because capital multiplies if you're frugal. And if you're frugal, you'll get outsized rewards. And the money is not going to last ever. You know, I remember one day, Naramurthy came to my room and said, Mohan, I went to a meeting where people said that, there's something called loans and advance in the balance sheet, and what is they hide something there. What are you doing? Then he told me, how much cash do you have in your account? Bank balance. He said, about 30,000 crores. I said, do you really have that money? I said, why are you asking? Parmalat, an Italian company, had just now had $1.5 billion of capital. It was a fraudulent capital because there's no bank deposit. They had printed the certificate. Then I told him, are you in town in another 2 days? He said, yes. I'll go to the bank, withdraw all the cash, and you and I will sit and count. So I'm just telling you this story is to say that you have to respect capital. You've got to be frugal, because it'll increase. And then I'll just end by 2 or 3 more points. The world printed $25 trillion of money, particularly OECD and the United States and UK, to take over the global financial crisis and COVID. The printed money is a $90 trillion global economy. The money will not wear off. So there was zero interest rates for about 20 trillion of the 40 trillion bonds of the OECD. Now, of course, we are paying the price for it. So the splash of liquidity bought in more unicorns, and that's what gave people this exuberance, and they forgot about valuation. So in the public markets, valuation goes up, driven by flows of money, driven by greed, driven by optimism. Valuation falls, value creation comes, and slowly value creation meets valuation, and the market cycle starts all over again. In public market, it's 36 months, private market maybe 16 months. It happens all the time. It's going to happen tomorrow, it's going to happen day after, and it's going to be a continuing thing. But today we are surplus in capital, and we are in the midst of a global inflection. So I want to say very clearly that India is in a great cycle for startups. We have raised $112 billion of money in the last, from 2014 to 2021. 2021, we got $42 billion of capital coming in. This year we'll have FDI of $100 billion. And this year we had 18 unicorns. Last year we had unicorns almost every week. Almost every person wanted to be a unicorn, and money was pouring in. Take the money and have fun. But keep the money in the bank and don't blow it up. And we had 108 unicorns today. By 2025, we'll have 250 unicorns. And this year, we already got about $19 billion of capital. We could end with $22 billion of capital, maybe 20 unicorns. And hopefully next year will be better. So I want to end by saying, look after value creation. Value creation is sustainable. Valuation is the glamour. Glamour in business is the first 2 minutes. The balance is all about execution, execution, execution. Like you, Arnab, you can come here and talk about your EBITDA, your number of eyeballs, people doing thalis, but you got to have a show every day, 3 hours of shows. And you got to work 10 hours for the 3 hours of shows. And those eyeballs are not secure. They may go away tomorrow because you're not exciting anymore. You're not having those things that are interesting to people. So value creation is something that's sustainable, that creates loyalty, that creates a moat, and that creates something that can go on. Valuation is the time of the moment that goes up and down. Don't get enthused by valuation. Look at it and be happy, but make sure you keep in the bank, keep the cash in the bank, and create value. Thank you very much.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 private university for the 10th year by India Today, a testimony to Amity's world-class education whilst imbibing values and sanskars in students.
News media is evolving. The mediums are expanding. The opportunities are plenty. It is time to put the focus on what is the future of news media. India's biggest news federation brings you India's biggest news media conclave.
Addressing the opening session of the once in 5-year Communist Party Congress in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China has achieved comprehensive control over Hong Kong. Xi also made China's stand clear on Taiwan, saying China has also waged a major struggle against Taiwan's separatism and is determined and able to oppose territorial integrity.
In response to separatist activities aimed at Taiwan independence and gross provocations of external interference in Taiwan affairs, we have resolutely fought against separatism and counter-interference, demonstrating our resolve and ability to safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to oppose Taiwan independence.
Xi received a thunderous applause from around 2,300 delegates who had gathered at Beijing's Great Hall of the People for the event. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
1 billion homes, 1 million stories. India's biggest news media conclave.
And moving on now to other news stories. During her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed the situation of the sharp slide of the Indian Rupee against the dollar as a result of rising geopolitical tensions. The Union Minister said that the Indian Rupee has done much better than many other currencies.
Not rupee sliding, and look at it as dollar strengthening incessantly. So obviously all other currencies are performing against a strengthening dollar. And I'm not talking technicalities, but it is a matter of fact that India's rupee probably has withstood this dollar, rates going up, the exchange rate.
A fire broke out in a 24-story building in Istanbul's Kadıköy district. As per sources, no casualties have been reported yet. The cause of the blaze still remains unknown.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people killed, 15 wounded before the soldiers were shot down. The volunteers are said to be from an unnamed ex-Soviet nation.
I was just doing my own research a few days back, and I caught up with Mr. Bhikchandani backstage. A few data points to begin this discussion. So, last December 21 till now, the UK 10-year gilt bonds are down 52%. The MSCI Emerging Market Index is down 32%. For the first time in the history of Japanese economy, the Japanese 10-year bonds went untraded for 3 consecutive days this week. Amid all of this, if you see, India, IMF said 3 days back, is the only bright spot. And India is expected to be the fastest growing major economy in the world this year and next. And when I was reading all of this, an incident kind of replayed in my head. I'll share an incident with you. I was graduating out of my MBA class 15 years back. And as part of the convocation ceremony, our VC was addressing the entire student gathering there. And this was actually the start of global financial crisis. This was 2007. The world was about to enter GFC in 2008. And one of my batchmates asked the VC that, do you also feel that India is going to go through the same economic pain which the West is going through right now? The VC actually took a 10-second pause, took a deep sigh and said, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे ज़मा हमारा. And everybody was clapping and ecstatic. And I want to ask the panelists here that do you also share the optimism of my VC 15 years back, that India is still the bright spot, or do you think that the financial storm is about to hit us as well?
You know, you need a little bit of history to answer that question. Let me give you data. 1950, we are the largest economy in Asia. China was destroyed, Japan was destroyed, Southeast Asia was destroyed. 3 of the top richest families were in India, primarily in Mumbai, I think, because Delhi didn't exist at that point of time as the business center. And from 1950 to 1980, we grew at 3.5% a year. Population grew at 2.5%. Per capita income 1% a year because of Nehru's failed policy. Nehru made sure that we became poorer in 1980 than 1950. This is all data, not politics. 1980 to 1990, we grew at 5.5%, population 2.25%, but debt grew from $20 billion in 1981 to $80 billion, and we are broke by 91. 91, we opened up when we got our economic freedom. Our freedom fighters and forefathers fought for freedom for this country, but we got political freedom in 1950 in the Constitution, economic freedom in 91, because private capital was suppressed by Nehru because of his dalliance with the Soviet model and the Fabian School, and you know his disdain for business. And India has been a free market economy throughout our history. That's why we're the richest country in the world. But we destroyed in the first 30 years, and we're paying the price. But 1991 GDP was 275 billion. 2022 we reached 3.15 trillion. We grew at 8.2% a year in dollar terms for 31 years. It's incredible. You should talk about it, Arnab. All these debates you have are irrelevant looking at this growth. What is this hijab debate? 8.2% a year every year for 31 years. We are a $10 trillion economy by PPP. We are the top 5 in most products in the world, in agriculture and industry. All data is there. And in rupees, we grew at 12.5% a year from 5,72,000 crore to 236 lakh crores. In 2014, Shahzad, GDP was 113 lakh crores. In 2022, it's 236 lakh crores. And this year, we're supposed to go to 276 lakh crores. So am I optimistic? I lived through the last 30 years. I've seen the rise of this country. I've seen what people can do. I've seen that 108 unicorns. I've seen $1 trillion of value in the digital markets. I've seen the rise of Sanjeev. What more do you want? I mean, if I'm not optimistic, what do you want to be? And I've seen Suhail speak. I've seen Anna become a great entrepreneur and disrupt the media. I've seen Shahzad on TV having everybody for dinner and chewing them up and spitting them out. If I'm not optimistic with all this, what do you want? Come on, give me a break.
No, I think you are much, much, much more optimistic than my VC was 15 years back. How do you feel, Mr. Bhikchandani?
Well, look, there are ups and downs. And as Mohan pointed out in his earlier talk, that look, valuations go up and down. There are capital ebbs and capital flows. But if your business is fundamentally sound, you'll be fine. And look, if you go back to what Mohan said about creative destruction and what Schumpeter said, yes, some may not survive. Entrepreneurship is Darwinian. Some may not survive, but the ones who are fit will survive and do well. But you know, the point I want to make, coming back to startups and investing in New India, which is the topic. So I graduated from college in 1984. So that's what, 38 years ago. And I joined a company. I was working as a trainee in a company. And when I look back to 1984 and I see today, there's been a huge change in the business environment, in the companies, in the economy, in the rate of growth, in how fast we are progressing. And when I look at it, actually a lot of the growth, a lot of the buzz, a lot of the investments, a lot of the increased employment has come from industries and companies that did not exist in 1984. So the IT services industry barely existed. IT-enabled did not exist. Mobile telephony did not exist. Private sector insurance did not exist. Private airlines did not exist. Private sector banks barely existed. They were legacy, but the new ones hadn't come in, right? So if you look at the change, it's been brought by new companies, new initiatives, and very often by startups. Some by diversification, like TCS was a diversification of large business house, but HCL and Infosys were startups back in '84, right? So actually the startups of today will be the giant companies of tomorrow. All will not make it, but those that make it will become huge, and that will make the difference. So I'm optimistic.
And let me tell you, the optimism is not misplaced. Another data point, S&P 500 of US is down 18% since beginning of year. And Nifty and Sensex, the broader Indian stock market, is flat. It's not down. It's maybe a -1% down and is up today 1.5%. And the reality is that the world is really looking at India as the only bright spot. But another reality is that stock markets generally globally always discount future. So while the stock market is doing fairly well, but the startup ecosystem is reeling under pressure. I think we've not seen this environment since last 6-7 years. I think 2015 was the last startup kind of bust which happened of sorts. So when do you see the real animal instinct, so to say, coming back into the startup ecosystem, sirs?
Look, the animal spirit is still there. You come to Bangalore, I'll show you the animal spirit every single moment in my office. We get 800 startups coming and asking for capital every single month. I mean, in Delhi, you don't see much of that because you've got other issues. But look, the problem is let's not carried away by the animal spirit being linked to flow of capital. Right now, people are not investing as earlier, throwing money, not investing. It'll come back next year because I think January, February, there is $276 billion of dry powder, capital waiting to be invested, and people are going to get tired of seeing stock price come down. They'll start investing, right? So it'll come. Let's not link this funding to growth of companies. Good companies are growing. They're still raising capital. But, first half we had 16 billion. Last 3 months we had 3 billion. It's come down. It's not so much as that past. But people are happening. Now the key thing is, like Donald Trump said, when banks call you to the office and give you money without asking, take the money. That's what we did last year. We got $42 billion last year. You should have raised capital last year. You would have got $1 billion. You'd be a billionaire by now. We got $42 billion last year, okay? And this year has come down. Before that, we got $12 billion. Maybe next year we'll get $30-40 billion. The key thing is very simple. Market moves in cycles. Valuation moves in cycles. Be careful. You have to last it out. Money in the bank is like blood in the body, right? Don't get too much of blood transfusion. Don't lose too much of blood, and you'll be fine. So I'm very optimistic. So this could last somewhat. But even today, good companies can go raise capital at reasonable valuation. It's not that the money is dried up everywhere. Good companies can raise money. But if you're a company which is raising $1 billion, blowing it up in the next 6 months because you believe the more you spend, the more valuation you get, that's not going to happen for some time.
And you were telling me about a survey you did, Mr. Bikhchandani, recently.
Yes. No, look, I'd like to echo first Mohan's point. There is enough money available for startups and for early stage companies. We are seeing it. A lot of investors have got funds ready. It's just that they're being a little careful. They're asking more questions, taking a little bit more time, right? And they're applying some lenses when they're evaluating a proposal, which they perhaps are not applying so rigorously maybe 2 years ago. So now we ourselves have invested more in the last 6 months than we did 2 years ago in terms of number of companies. We are seeing about 1,000 companies a quarter, and we invest in 3 or 4 out of that. So no, it's not 800 a month like Mohan, but Mohan, Delhi is okay. It's not so bad. It's okay.
Darwin Platform Group of Companies is one of the fastest growing diversified Indian conglomerates with global footprints. It is setting up offices globally and tying up with companies across the globe from multiple sectors. The company has ventured into real estate and construction, stockbroking and finance, arms and ammunition, mining, airlines, and many other sectors.
Addressing the opening session of the once in 5-year Communist Party Congress in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China has achieved comprehensive control over Hong Kong. Xi also made China's stand clear on Taiwan, saying China has also waged a major struggle against Taiwan's separatism and is determined and able to oppose territorial integrity.
In response to separatist activities aimed at Taiwan independence and gross provocations of external interference in Taiwan affairs, we have resolutely fought against separatism and counter-interference, demonstrating our resolve and ability to safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to oppose Taiwan independence.
Xi received a thunderous applause from around 2,300 delegates who had gathered at Beijing's Great Hall of the People for the event. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
A billion homes, a million stories. India's biggest news media conclave.
And moving on now to other news stories. During her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed the situation of the sharp slide of the Indian Rupee against the dollar as a result of rising geopolitical tensions. The Union Minister said that the Indian Rupee has done much better than many other currencies.
Not rupee sliding, and look at it as dollar strengthening. Dollar strengthening incessantly. So obviously all other currencies are performing against a strengthening dollar. And I'm not talking technicalities, but it is a matter of fact that India's rupee probably has withstood this dollar, rates going up, the exchange rate.
A fire broke out in a 24-storied building in Istanbul's Kadıköy district. As per sources, no casualties have been reported yet. The cause of the blaze still remains unknown.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Two volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people killed, 15 wounded before the soldiers were shot down. The volunteers are said to be from an unnamed ex-Soviet nation. US President Joe Biden calls British Prime Minister Liz Truss' abandoned tax cut plan a mistake. Expresses his worries over the prevailing situation, stating that other nations' fiscal policies may hurt the US amid worldwide inflation.
News media is evolving. The mediums are expanding. The opportunities are plenty. It is time to put the focus on what is the future of news media.
And you mentioned, Mr. Pai, that the irony is, and Mr. Bhikchandani was telling me backstage again, that all of this is happening at a time when there is massive amount of dry powder available. Dry powder means uninvested capital by the funds. And I was just talking to a few VC friends, one of the largest VC funds in India, just raised a $1.2 billion India dedicated fund just a few months back. And bulk of that money is not invested till now. Another reality is that, which both of you mentioned, is that the economic cycle will always have booms and busts. That's the nature of the market. You'll always have ups and downs. The other side of the equation is, to the investee company is the investor. Now what was happening, again a question to you, a few months back, a few quarters back, actually a friend of mine shared a fantastic anecdote a few days back. Till a few months back, the only discussion in investor meetings and boardrooms was chase growth at any cost. There is no unit economics, there is no profitability in question, just chase growth. That is what we are here to do. And now the last few months, the only discussion is where is the profitability, where is the EBITDA. My question to you, sir, is that this slowdown which we are seeing now, and I feel, and maybe you can correct me, that the whole mentality of chasing growth at any cost, I think is fundamentally incorrect. It has to change, but do you think that investors also will learn through this economic cycle now? Will people become more rational?
No, you can't accuse investors of too much intelligence. You can only accuse them of greed and fear because, you pour money when the money is available, and when it dries up, you sit quiet, right? The cycle is going to happen again. That's the nature of the beast. Human beings move by greed and fear. They're the only two emotions that operate in the public markets or the private markets. And that's going to happen again and again. It's not that somebody is going to calculate and do. Look, let me tell you one thing. Arnab comes to me and says, I'm starting something, give me $10 million. He's got a PPT. He gives me some projections. What are you going to do with the projections? Nobody knows what to do with it. For example, the regulators say you must have a valuation report. The guy who values does not know half the business as it is. So when you do something, we'll tell Arnab, okay Arnab, I'll give you 10 million, but I want first in the waterfall, first money will come to me and blah, blah, blah and all that, and I give him money and it works. Well, I believe Arnab, he's passionate, energetic, he'll work 24/7 and he wants to be a billionaire, so ride on his back and make the money, right? That's how you invest. Because in the PPT, what are the analysis you do? Analysis you do when you go to public markets like him and look at all the data, right? There's got to be data. You look at the face of the founder and, body language and all the nice stuff, how he talks, and you give the money. You understand? So investment is an art. Okay? And that's how you fund entrepreneurs. And you have a portfolio. If you have 25 startups, maybe 5 will be unicorns if you're very good. Maybe 10 will fail. It's fine, and you get decent returns because you're getting risk. In the last 30 years, the US, the returns have been something like 15 to 17% for venture, which is the highest class of assets in the United States. The data proves so. You understand? And they've gone through multiple cycles. So we're going to go through cycles. We've got to do this. But the key thing is very simple. You have to create a sustainable business. And what a sustainable business means? Sustainable business means cash in the bank is the only reality in economics and in life. Make sure the cash in the bank doesn't diminish. You earn cash flows, add to the cash, don't bring it down beyond a point, and keep it. And every day, open your ledger, do puja every day in the morning, till the evening, count again, and remain happy, then you survive.
What do you think, Mr. Bikhchandani?
Look, I think it's good discipline that companies, if you build a big profitable company when money is a little tight. If you have too much money, you tend to spend it suboptimally. It's too easy. So it's good to have a little less money. You'll work harder. You will make things happen. And yes, some companies will make it, like Mohan said, and some may not, and that's life.
Just to add to what Mr. Pai said, I think Arnab is a businessman. You talk to him any time of the day. The only thing he talks about is profitability. That I'm here to scale the business, but it has to be profitable. So I think a lot of founders need to learn from Arnab also in that sense. So just one more thing, sir, in this context only. So while all of us in India are extremely optimistic about the prospects, I think India is doing fairly well macroeconomics wise. But what do you think how is global market looking at India? So you must be talking to your global counterpart investors. How are they looking at India right now?
You see, for the global markets, India has always been a curiosity and a rounding off error. Because, we didn't allow too much of capital to come in. See, only 2% of our GDP is coming in as FDI every year. Okay? This year we're getting 100 billion, maybe 3% because the GDP is much bigger. So India has been marginal to the world. We have been a controlled market. We are a much more open market today. FIs only own 600 billion of the $3.3 trillion in the public markets. In the private markets, maybe 300 billion, right? Compared to China, which has got maybe many trillions of value. Correct? And the total value of all the stocks and bonds in the world is $275 trillion. So we are very small. So we must understand we are very small. And we are still a poor country. Mera Bharat Mahan is very good, 5G is very good, everything is good. But our per capita income is 1,75,000. Bihar is only 50,000 rupees. Bihar is 50,000. UP is 80,000. Karnataka is 3,05,000. Bangalore is 8.5 lakhs. Richest city in India. So diversity is very high. So we must understand, we have to be optimistic. We have to work hard. We are a poor country. We must take the per capita income to $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year will mean about $56 trillion of GDP. It's a very large amount, but we can still count. We know how to count, right? So please understand, that the reality of India is very different from what we talk here. We have to be optimistic. We have to work towards it. We have a huge growth ahead. We are supply constrained, not demand constrained, but demand at a price. When the price is low, demand will shoot through the roof. That's what China did. Now, China has grown at 9.9% a year from 1978 till 2022. China is a $19 trillion economy, $30 trillion in PPP. Can we be a China? Maybe not. But can we grow at 8.5% a year for the next 10 years? Of course we can. We got a very clean banking sector, no NPS. You know, they gave money to the Bush and Steel, 40,000 crores enough to everybody. They should give money just like, I mean, we should have got money from the banks at that point of time. You know, you made a mistake. They're giving out money, doling out money, 12 to 15 lakh crores of NPS. But they cleaned up their act. Now they become very strong banks. So banking system is in good shape. Stock markets are in good shape. Our supply chain costs are 14% of GDP. US is 6%, China is 7%. Because the GST has come down to 12%. Because of the roads that are building will come down to 10%. And if we get a warehouse rail, come to 8%. We are becoming competitive in manufacturing. The PLI scheme is a fantastic scheme to improve manufacturing. And all the reforms and hard decisions have happened. Now the animal spirit in the Indians is there. And like Pranav said, young people are optimistic. They want to be enthusiastic. They're going to work hard. They're going to use technology. They're going to take India forward. You understand? And that is what makes you enthusiastic. And that's what is going to create this country. And let us remember one thing. Whether you like it or not, the sun will rise in the morning and set in the evening. And it's going to happen again and again. So be optimistic, rise up with hope, work very hard, and have a great dinner, go to sleep, get back, get to work, and go ahead. And that's what it is, right? Right, Sanjeev?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, he's a billionaire. Sanjeev is a billionaire, but you know, look at the man. He works 24/7. He doesn't have a jet going off for a holiday to wherever rich people go for holiday. Suhail, you got to tell him how to spend his money, man. He doesn't have style. Look at this guy. You know, get him a nice wardrobe. Get him a nice wardrobe. Make him up. Get him all those nice, you know, all the glamour in London and all that. Go after this guy. Look at this guy. Billionaire. People will be ashamed of billionaires if they see Sanjeev.
A billion homes, a million stories. India's biggest news media conclave.
And moving on now to other news stories. During her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed the situation of the sharp slide of the Indian Rupee against the dollar as a result of rising geopolitical tensions. The Union Minister said that the Indian Rupee has done much better than many other currencies.
Not rupee sliding, and look at it as dollar strengthening. Dollar strengthening incessantly. So obviously all other currencies are performing against a strengthening dollar. And I'm not talking technicalities, but it is a matter of fact that India's rupee probably has withstood this dollar, rates going up, the exchange rate.
A fire broke out in a 24-storied building in Istanbul's Kadıköy district. As per sources, no casualties have been reported yet. The cause of the blaze still remains unknown.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Two volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people killed, 15 wounded before the soldiers were shot down. The volunteers are said to be from an unnamed ex-Soviet nation. US President Joe Biden calls British Prime Minister Liz Truss
I have nothing to say to that, but so will be a meeting, okay? No, so look, our feedback on how foreign investors are viewing India. I know I don't know that much of public markets, but I know more about private markets. Well, I know public markets also because we're listed and we meet investors. I think, look, China is definitely not flavor of the month right now, as far as US and Europe are concerned. So there isn't money is coming out of China. Now, if there's a certain emerging market pocket, right, India is the best place to go right now for many, many people. And that's put us in a good spot relatively. That China mein paisa nahi ja raha hai. India is good. Brazil is not looking too good. Russia, of course, is untouchable, right? And therefore, India is positioned very well. But within that, obviously, people will be very discerning on where they invest, which company and how they invest, because of the higher risk being perceived, given the contraction globally in financial markets. But India will be all right.
I've been meeting foreign investors from 94, 300 investors a year when our CFO, Arnab, only KK Mystery used to come after 96. And we have sold India for so many years. So India is certainly on people's map, but we make it difficult for them to get money into India. To open a demat account for a foreign investor, you got to do something with the embassy and all kind of things. To get a PAN number, we got to do some funny thing and sign physically. Nobody signs physically. I was told that the sovereign of a neighboring country, very rich person, wanted to invest in India, but it took him 4 months to open an account with the repository, and he was signing in Arabic so that, it didn't come in the field, and he gave up. We're the only country in the world which make it difficult for people to get money in. Once they get money in, they make money head over heels. We got to open up and get all the money. I keep telling government, go to Japan, get $100 billion of money payable after 50 years at 0.5% interest to build up infrastructure. They'll give you the money. And because after 50 years, the person who gave the money is not there, and the person who took the money is not there, why bother? Get the great infrastructure, right? We got to learn how to take money from foreign capital. Foreign capital is fantastic. They got surplus money. Go take how much ever you want and invest in a country fondly, and it's okay. Let the government should not take the debt. Private sector can take the debt, right? That's why we need an Adani. He knows how to take money. He's raising $10 billion of capital. We should applaud him because he's going to invest in India. He's going to create the largest alternate energy company in India. He's going to create the largest cement company in the world. He's going to create the largest transmission company, the largest port company. We should applaud them. We need this kind of entrepreneurs to take risks, hopefully with foreign capital and not from our banks. Our banks are giving money too, but he's a great entrepreneur. Look at Dhirubhai Ambani, what he did. He transformed India. Look at Mukesh Ambani. He spent $40 billion to give us Jio. 23 GB of data every single month for every individual in the country. For 100 rupees, unlimited data. The cheapest data plan in India. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. $6.6 billion of UPI transactions every month. How will it happen without a mobile phone and a cheap data plan? Indians spend 7 hours a day looking at the internet. You go anywhere in India, everybody is watching movies. I don't know what they're watching. I mean, Sohail knows because he monitors them. They're watching all kind of stuff, right? Now, we need great entrepreneurs. We need young people to think big, and we got to think big. Foreign capital will come. You got to go market. Foreign capital will come if you go and sell. You go and get market. Tell them you're going to get 30% a year, and I'm going to be the greatest investor. Out of 100, maybe 30 will buy the argument and give you money. Go get the money.
So, both of you mentioned about the China angle in all of this, and I was attending a global conference, I think about 4 years back in 2018, late 2018. And one of the speakers there mentioned about China plus one strategy, which honestly wasn't even a word at that time, a phrase at that time. And he mentioned that India needs to be proactive at this point in time. The world is going to look beyond China in terms of supply chain diversification. And this time India needs to be proactive and not reactive. Else again, countries like Philippines, Vietnam are going to take those supply chains away. And fortunately, right at the start of COVID, April 2020, India did come out with a massive PLI policy. And I think it has done phenomenal wonders, and I'm sure Mr. Pai is laughing. He would tell us some stories for that. But the reality is that that policy alone has galvanized the manufacturing ecosystem in India. And I was reading, I think this morning in Economic Times, I think what Apple is exporting $4 billion of mobile phones from India this year, which is a phenomenal number. What else do you think, Mr. Pai, India should be doing structurally now? So while
Look, we have to go market the country. I want Suhail said to create a marketing strategy for India and lead the marketing drive for the next 5 years instead of going having nice dinners all over the world and get us $500 billion of capital in 5 years. Right, Arnab? Yeah, that's what we do. See, we have to market. The world is built on marketing. Let me tell you one instance, Arnab. An American kid will sell a $25 stuff for $100 and make the consumer feel that it's got a great stuff. An Indian will sell a $100 stuff for $25 and feel sorry for the consumer. You don't feel sorry for the consumer. You go suck it to them. You understand? We have to market. What we lack is not the great institution, the great banks. You know, Bank of Baroda quoting at 0.5 times book, 6.6 times book. HDFC is 4 times book. The great bank, good management, making obscene amount of profits. Why are they quoting at 0.6? They got to market better. Yes, the owner is the government of India and Delhi, and you know, it's difficult with Delhi and all that. But we have to market. The PE of a company in the listed market is a question of the faith investors have in you, and you have to market, you have to market, you have to market, you have to market. Please market this poor billionaire. I mean, you know, if you market him and his PE goes up to 60, 70, we'll get more valuation, Suhail. Suhail, you got to really work in the future.
And moving on now to other news stories. During her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed the situation of the sharp slide of the Indian Rupee against the dollar as a result of rising geopolitical tensions. The Union Minister said that the Indian Rupee has done much better than many other currencies.
Not rupee sliding, and look at it as dollar strengthening. Dollar strengthening incessantly. So obviously all other currencies are performing against a strengthening dollar. And I'm not talking technicalities, but it is a matter of fact that India's rupee probably has withstood this dollar, rates going up, the exchange rate.
A fire broke out in a 24-story building in Istanbul's Kadıköy district. As per sources, no casualties have been reported yet. The cause of the blaze still remains unknown.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people.
But sir, besides...
Arnab, we need a fourth chair here, and Suhail needs to come up. Suhail, you got to answer that.
And besides putting Mr. Suhail said under more pressure, what else do you think India should be doing structurally?
See, we got good policies, we got everything, we got a bad image. We got a negative image. Let's be careful. And the negative image is buttressed by the left, who created negative thing. About the hijab controversy, to say there's a ban on hijab. There's no ban on hijab in this country. You can wear whatever you want. You can go nude in the streets. We are okay. We're the most liberal country in the world. But we got a bad image because we don't know how to address the global media. And we don't know how to get the image. We have to build our image. We have to get the best companies go out. We got to get the best marketing czars to go out. And we got to build the brand. And we got to do it. We got to lobby in the US. We don't put money in lobbying. US is a lobbying market. Democracy is a system. Democracy is a system of competitive lobbying. We don't lobby. We don't understand. We got to lobby. We got to spend money. We got to buy some lords and others to talk great things and have dinner parties, right? That's what everybody does. That's what the Chinese did. The Chinese bought over all opinion makers in America. They got what they want, right? So we go to market. You should go on a road show 200 days a year. He must go on a road show 150 days a year instead of sitting in Delhi and coming for a conference like this. You must go get money, man. Marketing. I'm honest. We got everything in this country. Please believe me. We have to market more.
Yeah. So listen. My personal experience when I talk to companies, especially in manufacturing, China Plus One is happening. Okay, and there are people who are getting orders from US companies, European companies, saying that, listen, I know you're 40% more expensive than China right now, but I'll buy your product anyway. I see you as a strategic sourcing base. And we know over time as you scale, you will come down to China's cost levels. So what we have to do is make sure that enough of this comes our way rather than go to Vietnam or Philippines, right? For that, we got to ensure that the traditional Inspector Raj does not come in the way. And that is implementation at the state level. Mohan, you don't agree? What do you think?
Look, Mukesh Ambani has grown so fast. Adani is growing so fast, right? Tatas are growing so fast in manufacturing. Yes, there are challenges. People take bribes. In my state of Karnataka, bribing has gone a multiple fold, but it's still growing. We still have 15 million square feet of grade A office space being observed every single year. See, I tell you, let me give you an example, Sanjeev, because we got to think very differently. The IT industry started exporting and addressing the global markets. The global markets is 1.5 trillion. When we started, the Indian market was 50 billion. Today, we export 178 billion. 60% of global outsourcing comes here. 5.1 million people are employed. 500,000 people have hired last year, the largest in the world. The industry last year was worth 225 billion. This year, there will be $200 billion of export, $250 billion of industry. It's the largest industry in India. Will create 700,000 jobs. Right? Of the top 10 software service companies of market value in the world, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 3 million employees in the top 10, 2.1 million are Indians. Of the 6 million Indians in America in software, 1 million are Indians. Of the 9 million working for American companies globally, 3.5 million are Indians. Look at this, man. We did it. Why can't everybody do it? You got to scale up. You got to address the global markets, not the Indian markets. You know, Arnab, one Maruti, I think, had an operating margin of 18% for autos. Ford had 8 or 9% in the best year. Why such high profits? Levers has got 30% operating margin before advertisement. They spend 9% of sales on advertisement. No FMCG company earns 30% operating. Ask Swell, he'll tell you. Everybody wants fat profits. You got to look at the world, expand, and become very big globally. That's what the ambition should be, not this Indian market. You got to go to other countries and conquer instead of spending time in Delhi. Go do it, man. You are young. Go do it. See, I'm serious. Address the global market of 92 trillion, not the Indian market of 3.15 trillion is small. And once you have scale, then you are going to be global master. How do you build the multinationals? We have to build the Indian multinationals. We have to go out. We have to raise capital. You understand? And everything is here in this country. We can badmouth India till the cows come home. But we have to change India. Murthy used to tell us, Narnab, he said, it seems Dick Whittington was in London, went to London from a small city, and he met somebody in the street. He said, sir, I heard the streets of London are paved with gold. I couldn't find any. Then he said, young man, the streets of London are not paved with gold. The streets of London are not paved. And you got to do the paving. So we got to do it. All of us in this room, I got to do it. We got to do it, man. You understood what I'm saying, Sanjeev? Sanjeev, you have grown so much in this country. You have been through all this pain. Despite that, you have grown. Am I right? Without that, you have been 10 times the size, right?
I'll go overseas. I'll take Sohail with me.
And I think Mr. Pai is going to ensure that Mr. Bhikchandani takes up the executive roles at Info Edge again.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Two volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people killed, 15 wounded before the soldiers were shot down. The volunteers are said to be from an unnamed ex-Soviet nation. US President Joe Biden calls British Prime Minister Liz Truss' abandoned tax cut plan a mistake. Expresses his worries over the prevailing situation, stating that other nations' fiscal policies may hurt the US amid worldwide inflation.
News media is evolving. The mediums are expanding. The opportunities are plenty. It is time to put the focus on what is the future of news media. India's biggest news federation brings you India's biggest news media conclave.
Addressing the opening session of the once in 5-year Communist Party Congress in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China has achieved comprehensive control over Hong Kong. Xi also made China's stand clear on Taiwan. saying China has also waged a major struggle against Taiwan's separatism and is determined and able to oppose territorial integrity.
In response to separatist activities aimed at Taiwan independence and gross provocations of external interference in Taiwan affairs, we have resolutely fought against separatism and counter-interference, demonstrating our resolve and ability to safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to oppose Taiwan independence.
Xi received a thunderous applause from around 2,300 delegates who had gathered at Beijing's Great Hall of the People for the event. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
A billion homes, a million stories. India's biggest news media conclave.
And moving on now to other news stories. During her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addressed the situation of the sharp slide of the Indian Rupee against the dollar as a result of rising geopolitical tensions. The Union Minister said that the Indian Rupee has done much better than many other currencies.
Not rupee sliding, and look at it as dollar strengthening. Dollar strengthening incessantly. So obviously all other currencies are performing against a strengthening dollar. And I'm not talking technicalities, but it is a matter of fact that India's rupee probably has withstood this dollar, rates going up, the exchange rate.
A fire broke out in a 24-story building in Istanbul's Kadıköy district. As per sources, no casualties have been reported yet. The cause of the blaze still remains unknown.
The faces that matter. The most compelling conversations. The issues never discussed before. India's biggest news media conclave.
Volunteer soldiers allegedly opened fire at a military firing range near Ukraine. 11 people killed, 15 wounded before the soldiers were shot down. The volunteers are said to be from an unnamed ex-Soviet nation. US President Joe Biden calls British Prime Minister Liz Truss' abandoned tax cut plan a mistake. Expresses his worries over the prevailing situation, stating that other nations' fiscal policies may hurt the US amid worldwide inflation.
News media is evolving. The mediums are expanding. The opportunities are plenty. It is time to put the focus on what is the future of news media. India's biggest news federation brings you India's biggest news media conclave.
Addressing the opening session of the once in 5-year Communist Party Congress in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping said China has achieved comprehensive control over Hong Kong. Xi also made China's stand clear on Taiwan, saying China has also waged a major struggle against Taiwan.
CBI summons accused number 1 in Liquorgate, asked to appear at 11 a.m. on Monday. CBI all set to grill Sisodia, but Kejriwal continues to back his deputy, compares him with Bhagat Singh. Summoned by CBI, Manish Sisodia writes to Delhi Lieutenant Governor, questions him over increasing crimes in Delhi.
5 एमएलए जेल जाके आए हैं और अब बेल पर हैं। जेल और बेल के बीच में घूमने वाले एमएलए वो आज आम आदमी पार्टी के एमएलए हैं।
BJP President JP Nadda targets Aam Aadmi Party on corruption, calls Kejriwal government a government of scams and says Aam Aadmi Party has broken Congress's corruption record. Big disclosure in interim report of Madrasa survey. More than 6,500 unrecognized madrasas found. And China reiterates stand on Taiwan, says won't renounce the right to use force over Taiwan. His residence was raided, his lockers were searched, and has been named accused number 1 in the Liquorgate fit. CBI has now summoned Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia at 11 a.m. on Monday, and Aam Aadmi Party is preempting his arrest.
गुजरात चुनाव को लेके, गुजरात के अंदर प्रचार को लेके, उसको रोकने के लिए कल मनीष सिसोदिया जी को गिरफ्तार किया जाएगा.
It has attacked the centre for trying to pull the plug on its Gujarat poll campaign.
भाजपा को और केंद्र सरकार को बताना चाहता हूं, जितने नेताओं को हमारे गिरफ्तार करेंगे, आम आदमी पार्टी और मजबूत होके गुजरात के अंदर उभरेगी.
In a sharp retort, the BJP was quick to hit back, accusing the Kejriwal government of corruption.
5 एमएलए जेल जाके आए हैं और अब बेल पर हैं. ये आपका रिकॉर्ड है. 5 एमएलए जेल. ये हम तो स्वच्छ प्रशासन देंगे. हमारे एमएलए तो ऐसे होंगे, ऐसे होंगे, ऐसे होंगे जो एकदम स्वच्छ होंगे. जेल और बेल के बीच में घूमने वाले एमएलए वो आज आम आदमी पार्टी के एमएलए हैं. ये हमको ध्यान में रखना.
Even as the BJP accused Sisodia of playing the victim card.
Whenever their leaders are involved in corruption and processes of law, agencies of law take action on them, instead of submitting themselves and answering the questions that are being asked, they start playing a victimhood card.
CBI ने बहुत ही सोच समझ के जगह जगह छापे मार करके साक्ष्य जुटाए हैं और मुझे लगता है कल मनीष सिसोदिया के आपराधिक इतिहास में एक महत्वपूर्ण दिन होगा.
ये एंटीसिपेटरी विक्टिमहुड कार्ड खेल रहे हैं. इनको जानकारी है कि इन्होंने क्या क्या भ्रष्टाचार किया है. डॉक्यूमेंट्स हो, एविडेंस हो, कुछ और सबूत हो, जिसकी सीबीआई जानकारी लेना चाहती है. ये जाकर जवाब दें. परंतु कहा ना, इनको विक्टिमहुड कार्ड खेलना.
Sisodia, who is in charge of the excise department, has been under the lens of the CBI and ED for alleged lapses which provided undue benefits to the tender process for liquor licenses in Delhi for the year 2021-2022. The Delhi excise policy was passed in the middle of the COVID pandemic in 2021. Manish Sisodia was among 15 others booked in the FIR filed by the CBI in August, including then Excise Commissioner Arva Gopi Krishna, Deputy Commissioner Anand Tiwari and Assistant Commissioner Pankaj Bhatnagar. As the CBI closes its net in the Delhi excise policy scam, all eyes will be on Monday's interrogation of Manish Sisodia. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
In a big boost to the education in vernacular languages, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has launched the MBBS textbooks in Hindi. 97 medical experts work to translate the 3 textbooks of MBBS that are now available in Madhya Pradesh.
In a first for education in medicine, Union Home Minister Amit Shah released textbooks for 3 subjects in Hindi at the Lal Parade Ground at Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh, in presence of Madhya Pradesh's Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan